So I wanted to talk about the unconscious mind and the baboon. This is also, I'm going to do a brief bit at the beginning of this. It's the difference between arrogance and wisdom. Wisdom's knowing better. Arrogance is what you have when you're a cocky little kid that thinks you're smarter than somebody else. An adult may often seem arrogant or self-righteous. But if you are a wise person and you are smarter and you know better, you are not arrogant. You just know better. Alright? When I was working at Papa John's, that David guy and that Kevin idiot and these other morons kept referring to me as an arrogant, stupid Indian guy that just thought he knew everything. I remember these guys talking about why you can't just keep cutting taxes for the rich and then taxing the shit out of the poor because people don't have money. That is a fact. They're poor. That is the definition of poverty. You retard. But the other side is the laugher curve. Eventually, the lollipop system you created where everything's on top and there's nothing to hold it up from the bottom crumbles. It falls over. That is what happens. And that is common sense, by the way. You don't have to be smart to understand what Art Laffer, the Laffer curve is. Okay? It's a common sense scenario. But they called me arrogant. Now, this is the thing. I'm twice their age, I have twice their experience, I potentially have twice their intelligence, and somehow they think they're smarter than me. Who do you think is the actual arrogant person in this scenario? It's them. They're arrogant. And they are projecting onto me that I'm arrogant because I know better. Okay? This is kind of a Bobby thing. Because this happens a lot, especially dealing with kids, because they think they know better and they don't. One of the other examples I can think of is there's this kid I worked with that kept bitching that his dad kept yelling at him about smoking weed. And the kid was like, it's not bad for you. It's not about the weed being bad for you. It's about you getting a felony or going to prison for weed possession. Okay? Your dad doesn't care about any of that other shit. He's concerned with your well-being, you Nimrod. Alright. Anyways, back to our regular scheduled rant. The subconscious mind being primal makes a lot of sense because envy is one of the first emotions animals feel. Even your cat can get jealous. Okay? And it makes sense that it might be the only emotion these people feel. The need for Stu and all these assholes to try to murder my ass for talking to their sex harem is another thing that is very primal. A lot of this is funny because once again, they don't believe in evolution, but now they're like, oh, we have the God brain. The primal brain, the alpha brain, and these guys are not alphas. When they were in prison, they were screaming and crying, and that's funny because that's the most alpha environment you could be in. Okay, these baboons didn't like that. Where am I getting with this? One, obviously projection, because they don't have the conscious mind to process their emotions, so those emotions come from somewhere. Where do they come from? They come from you. I'm feeling your emotions. No, you're not. You're feeling your own emotions. You're just too stupid to recognize it because you don't have a conscious mind. When you remove the conscious mind, you understand what the subconscious doesn't have. And it doesn't have it. It doesn't matter how hard you want to have it, how badly you desire it. You cannot and will not ever develop it because it is not in your brain. But this is an interesting theory because these people believe in being telepathic. They're like, just imagine a gold light going into your head and somebody else does it and you can communicate telepathically. I tried this with a bunch of people. It didn't work. I even lied to a couple of them because they were church members and told them it definitely worked. It didn't. Here is a theory. Your subconscious and conscious minds communicate and you don't even recognize it because they're communicating in a language that you don't understand. This same thing happened when they had two AIs communicating back and forth and they decided language was a stupid way to communicate, and then they just started developing their own language to the point that it just became omnidimensional and communicating in all directions simultaneously. Okay, and that makes sense. If you have common sense, that makes perfect fucking sense. All right. So what am I getting at with this? There is some way your brain communicates with the conscious and subconscious minds that we may not understand. Maybe. Feelings, emotions, these two things go back and forth, and you don't even notice you have a conscious and unconscious mind until somebody points it out to you. So, Bobby theory. The malignant narcissist or alpha in the group has the unconscious mind. It thinks like a baboon. Okay? And when it poisons, you have other people who are developed that have conscious minds, and then they poison them with heavy metals, and their conscious minds are there, but their subconscious mind is destroyed. My theory is that this is a conscious subconscious network, but here's something that makes a little bit more sense. You have an unconscious mind, you destroy somebody's halo brain, they have an unconscious mind. And you are now using the same connections that would normally connect with the conscious mind between subconscious minds. Yeah. So, let's talk about this shit that's never had an actual recording in history, ever in history. A mother's child gets hurt and she runs outside because she just knows there's danger. That's never happened. It's not a thing. When I was a kid, I watched that in a movie, and I had my friend bash me in the head with a piece of wood to see if my mother would come running outside because she would just know telepathically I got injured. Didn't work. Yeah. It hurt. Getting bashed in the head with a piece of wood is not a good idea. Don't do it. Yeah. So, but tetralead causes delusion, so the telepathic link could be a delusion. It could be a shared delusion between parties. All right. There is a thing for hemisynchronization, and and I believe this is what I actually believe is going on. It's not telepathy. Okay? If you synchronize your hemispheres, and this comes from the CIA and an actual psychological experiment, your hemispheres are synced, and the other person's hemisphere is synced. There is a kind of in tandem bond that comes up, where two people can almost subconsciously communicate with each other. I don't know how many of you out there have ever had like a really good best friend. My idiot friend Taco was a real idiot, but when we would play Smash Brothers, especially versing people, we could be retardedly coordinated, almost telepathically knowing how the other guy is going to react to a fight that's going on. I remember one of the combos on, we used to call it like the bounce chamber, is the Hyrule level. Me and Taco was coming up the thing, and his friend Caleb had spawned in, and Caleb dropped down from the cloud. And when Caleb did that, I rushed him with Link, hit him with the basic slash, broke into the spin attack, and then hit him with the over A double slash, sending him flying toward Taco, who was coming up the thing. As Taco was coming up the thing, he was holding one of those pill bottles, and he hit him with the pill bottle, sent him right back at me, to which I hit him again with the double A sword slash attack, and it sent him flying across the level, to which Taco jumped up and kicked him straight up and out of the screen and killed him. That all happened without us communicating. We just knew what we were going to do. And we did that multiple times in Super Smash Bros. Melee, playing against computers too. We would suddenly start comboing people and just beat them back and forth, and that was just normal. Alright. I mean, there were some hiccups. I remember one time Donkey Kong punched a character, and it caught me completely off guard, and I ended up getting smacked back. Like, they just hit Link. Like, they just crashed into Link and knocked him back. Like, it's a rare animation. You really don't see it in Super Smash Bros. Melee, but it's there. You can literally throw a character into a character. That is what I believe is actually going on. Now, I don't believe me and Taco were telepathically linked. I think that our mindsets were in the same mindset. And when these two things are similar, you can anticipate what the other thing is going to do because your mind is in a similar condition. Okay? And you can try this experiment. I watched the years ago, there was this guy talking about couples meditation. I haven't seen it in a long time, but he said, like, if you synchronize your breathing with your partner, you can also synchronize your mind with your partner, and you guys can have a more adjusted, understanding of one another. Now, this doesn't work between a skinny dude and a fat chick because the skinny dude's heartbeat is really slow and fat chicks have a higher heartbeat, so what happens is fat chicks fall asleep. I've tried it with like 3 of them. Yeah. I tried it while cuddling. I regulated my breathing with my cuddle buddies, and inevitably our heartbeat synced and they just fall asleep. Yeah. You regulate your breathing, and you slowly kind of start matching, and then they just fall asleep. The fatty falls asleep. So if you ever have a fat chick that can't go to sleep, try doing that. Because your hearts go into a sync, and I'm not saying that her heart suddenly slowed down to my level. My heart sped up, hers slowed down. And she didn't have enough blood to power all that lovely soft lard. Nap time. And that would happen every time, by the way. Yeah. Which I think is a great argument for skinny guy, fat girl couples. You know. My partner puts me to sleep. No, like, literally. Like, they're not boring, but, you know. Yeah. There are other ways of synchronizing your head, allegedly. There's, like, this CIA hemi-sync thing that synchronizes both halves of your brain, which puts your brain into a neutral state of calm, which I've experimented with, and I do feel something, so I guess it's possible, but, you know, whatever, dude. And this kind of stupidity really started feeding into, my brother teaches martial arts, and he was talking about the same guys would roll together all the time, and they got really good at wrestling one another, but if they ever had to wrestle anybody else, they would just lose. And it was because they were so good at anticipating the other guy's moves, they were really bad at anticipating random people's moves. There is something to be said about two minds that work similar. And even the wives out in the desert, this was a thing they talked about with the telepathy in the subconscious mind. They spoke of you poison somebody with tetralead until their neurons match everybody else's. So everybody in the church's brains are basically poisoned with tetralead, with lead, until their neurons reach a certain level, and then you can telepathically communicate with them, allegedly. Maybe. I can't really think of a good example of me using telepathy. And then they explain, if it's father and son, the link is more powerful. And then they explain that you can use the link through your dick. You can imagine your dick being like a antenna, and it enhances that. And I was like, that's gross and weird. I'm not even gonna, like, respect that in any form. I will say this. There are electrical neuron waves that do fire in the human brain, and theoretically, if you could broadcast these kind of waves, and the argument for these people is you put the tetralead in LSD and it causes these cavitation bubbles, and the lead acts like an antenna, and then you can telepathically communicate. Okay. There are electrical waves in your brain, and theoretically, if you're not connecting with your conscious mind, and you have the subconscious mind. It wouldn't surprise me if somehow those electrical nodes can kind of communicate, but I don't think they could span the distance of reality. Okay? I think there would be a limitation, or you'd have to have multiple people to link off of to send the message. Okay? You'd have to have like 100 people in an area or some shit. I don't know. Yeah. But even when the wives out there had me using it, it was kind of good, but not really. I don't know. Yeah. So, once again, I guess it is that thing. It is a baboon's brain. And I remember even Blondie, everything's jealousy. His only emotion is jealousy, so everybody's jealous because it's the only emotion he knows. It's the only emotion I know. Everybody is jealous. It's gotta be. I'm totally normal. No. If you're one of these church leaders, the first thing you need to understand is you work off of the unconscious mind. So when you project onto people, they do not think like you because their brains work separate from yours. Okay, they don't work off the unconscious mind, they work off of the conscious mind. The second thing you need to understand is you're jealous. You have envy brain. Another thing you need to understand is tetralead causes anxiety and addiction. You're an addict with anxiety. Okay. Third thing you need to understand is constantly popping LSD causes hyperfocus, meaning you can only pay attention to one thing at a time. The reason why you imbeciles kept making so many fucking mistakes is you weren't environmentally aware. You were focusing on one thing. You had tunnel vision. You weren't paying attention to anything else. That's scary.